In this video, I want to talk with you guys and have a little bit of a story time about one of the biggest losses I've ever had with trading, and also how I was able to get to a point where losses do no longer really affect me in my trading. Now, the biggest loss I've ever taken was around $15,000, and that was in the year of 2022. Now, during this year, at the end of the year, I actually made $330,000, but one day and one single day was that day that I made or lost $15,000. Now, the day that I lost $15,000, I was in a terrible mindset. I had no idea what I was focusing on. And all of the discipline and rules that I've built up going into this day ended up funneling down the drain. Everybody gets to a point in their trading where you have to have a level of discipline to be able to recognize your own emotional capacity, because everybody's gonna have off days. Everybody's gonna feel like, the world's out to get them or whatever it is. And you have to, the biggest part and the most important part of that is being able to recognize when those emotions do arise, because we're all human. We're always going to be making mistakes. Our goal is to be able to avoid those mistakes as much as possible to decrease our downside risk. So I ended up waking up this morning on this day, not feeling too hot. Previously, at the time, I was in school. I had just, failed an exam, and I woke up the next morning, and at this point in time, it was still earlier in the year, so I didn't have a lot of profit on the year so far. I was maybe up, $40,000. And I went into the day, and at the time, I think my max size of what I was trading was around 6 to 10 contracts. Now, normally that year when I would lose, it would be maybe around $5,000, like max. $5,000 loss max should be my max loss on the day. And I found a trade that I liked. I ended up taking the trade, and the first trade I took on the day was actually a win. I took 3 trades on that day. And I want to talk about the psychology of how throughout a day, you have to be able to recognize what happens, because many people will go into a day, for me example in this trade, is I come into the day and I took a win and I wasn't satisfied. I was up maybe $3,000 on the day off that one trade. I continued to look at the market for a couple more hours. I ended up taking a trade around midday, around lunch, and ended up taking a loss, and it was a $3,000 loss. So I had a $3,000 win, and I had a $3,000 loss. And I'm now sitting there like, I don't want to end the day break even. And this is your mind playing tricks on you, because nobody likes to admit when they make a mistake. Being a trader, you have to be able to admit when you are making those mistakes, because that's the only way that you're going to improve. You have to have an extreme level of self-accountability. And at the time, I didn't focus on that because I came into the day not feeling super great, and I was in the wrong headspace, and I didn't step away when I knew I should have. So I took a loss, I was at break even, and I decided to force a trade. There was no setup there was no opportunity, and I decided to over leverage myself. I traded 10 contracts on a terrible setup. I had a very loose stop loss. I entered the trade, and I ended up losing $15,000 on that one trade, ending the day red $15,000. Now, what I want you guys to take away from this story specifically, and we're gonna get into where I'm at now, but number one, this is honestly a part of your journey. Everybody and every single trader, that whether you've been trading for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, every trader has had this experience, and you will most likely go through it if you haven't already. You will have an experience where you come into the day, you've been following all your rules. Let's say you've been, killing it for a week or killing it for a month, and all it takes is one day for all of that to go down the drain. Because right when your brain switches into being more money oriented and money focused than the actual process and the foundation of what you're trading in your system, all of your rules, all of your good habits, all of your strategy, all of the things that is actually keeping you sustainable and making you money in the long run completely goes out of the window when you start flipping into a money-making mindset. And that's what happened on this day. I was more focused on making money than I was on following my rules, building good habits, and only trading my strategy. And as soon as that mindset shifted is when mistakes arise. So one of the things I want to talk about in this video as well is every single day that you come into the market, you need to be focusing on building good habits, right? Having good risk management, not over leveraging, only trading your setup or your specific A+ model. All of these things, when you come into the market and you focus on the process instead of the outcome, is when you can build a foundation that will continue to stick with you over time. Because again, trading is a longevity-based game. You are here for a while. If you came into trading and plan to stay here for maybe a week or a month, I'm sorry to say, but trading is not for you. You have to have some sort of passion in what you do. And you have to plan to do this for at least a couple years, because I'm sorry to say, most of the time you won't be successful your first 6 months. Now, that's not to say that some people aren't, but it's very rare that you will find someone or come across somebody that has had that success so early on. Everybody will have days and points in their journey where they will make mistakes. What matters is not the mistakes you make, but how you use them to your advantage going forward. Because this was a very key experience in my journey to have this day of losses, because I finally realized that the moment that I start to turn and I focus into being more money oriented is when my trading completely decreases, because I start becoming more anxious because there's more risk on the table that I haven't accepted. I become more emotional. I make irrational decisions. I don't follow my stop loss. I don't follow my entries. I'm taking terrible trades that don't align with my setup. And you start taking all of the progress that you've been building over time is now completely gone. So the biggest thing I want you to take away from this section of this video is every single day, you need to be focused on building good habits, trading your setup, and the money will come. And it really goes with everything in life. If you're out chasing love, you're not gonna find it. Most of the time, when you're working on yourself, someone's gonna come into your life at an unexpected time. When you're working out and you're focusing on getting a six-pack, it's the days where you're at the gym, focusing on pushing your muscles to the best of your ability, and then over time, you will start to see that happen and see that progress. Money will flow like water to you if you are focused on the process and not the outcome. Now, this next part of the video, I wanna talk to you guys about where my trading is currently at and how I'm able to have such big winners and such small losers. And there's a couple things to that. Number one, I've completely shifted my mindset to process orientation. I'm not focused on money whatsoever. I rarely look at my P&L throughout the day. I rarely look at my P&L throughout the week. I look at the end of the day. I'll post it on, social media because I'm an influencer. But throughout the day, what I'll do is I'll focus on everything that is actually making me a good trader. If there's no A+ setup, I'm not taking a trade. Why would I put risk on the table if I know that the setup in front of my face isn't something I have confidence in, isn't something I've seen before, isn't something that I've actually journaled and I have data to back? There's no reason for me to be putting risk on the table if that is something that I'm looking at. So if there's no A+ setup, there's no trade. And that's as simple. You'll see people a lot of the times when traders come into the space, they'll be taking 5 trades a day, 10 trades a day. And that is a big reason why they're failing, is less is always more with trading. You have to build a foundation of actually what you're looking for. And the more that you build this foundation, you'll realize that you start taking less and less trades because there isn't that much high quality opportunity with what you're looking for. Now, for me, I'll maybe get 4 A+ setups every single week, if that. And if I'm not trading an A+ setup, I'll lower my size. So the way that I'm able to control my losses is I'm very, very patient and I wait for A quality setups. And if I do not see an A quality setup, I either don't trade it completely, or if I see a setup that I think looks good but isn't exactly what I'm looking for, I'll put lower size on it. Because again, it's not something that I'm super confident in. I have enough conviction to take the setup, but there's no reason for me to put a lot of size on that trade if I don't have the conviction and I don't have the experience to trade it, right? So I only am trading my high size when the setup is exactly what I'm looking for, because you'll see me take, 18K days, 20K days, 10K days, 5K days, and then when I lose, it's a 2K loss, 3K loss, maybe a 4K loss. I haven't even taken a 4K loss in the last, this year alone. My biggest loss this year has been $3,000. My biggest loss this year has been $3,000, and my biggest win this year has been $18,000. And it's been around 3 months into the year so far. And the reason I'm able to control my winners and control my losers is, number one, I know when to step away is the biggest thing. So many traders struggle with this. They cannot control themselves and they don't have the discipline to actually step away from the market. You have to be able to recognize conditions. What strategy and what conditions does your strategy work best in? Whether that be, FOMC days, red folder news days, no news Mondays. Like for me, I don't trade no news Mondays, especially the days before CPI. I like to trade red folder news days because it brings more volatility into the marketplace and I have more conviction with it and I have more stats that back it. The more that you trade, all trading is repetition. If you want to become a great trader, I'm about to tell you the secret right now. If you want to become the best trader you can possibly be, listen up. The number one thing that you need to become a great trader is repetition. And most importantly, it is repetition with purpose. You can't be doing the same thing over and over again without actually analyzing the decisions you're making. right? It goes with, again, anything in life. If you're constantly working on golfing, for example, and you're working on a swing, but you just go to the range and just hit 1,000 balls, but you're not focusing on specific things every time you hit those balls, you're repeating the same thing, but you have no purpose with it. So every trade that you take, ask yourself, why am I taking this? What did I do right? What did I do wrong? How can I use this to my advantage going forward? And you should be journaling every trade that you take. The more that you do it over and over and over again, it becomes a second language. You're able to view the market as a way that you read a language. You're able to see things that you no longer have, or you never were end up seeing before, because you've seen it so many times again. If you want to become good at anything, it's all repetition with purpose. Focus on the right things, focus on the wrong things, learn from your mistakes. It's a part of the journey. You're paying your tuition and losses, but make sure you're learning from them, because losing is absolutely useless if you're not using it to your advantage. Losing is one of the biggest things and one of the most important things in trading, because that's how you're actually able to improve. You can't improve if you don't have failure. If you're not failing, you're not fucking trying. But most importantly, you have to be learning from those failures to actually improve as a trader. And I've gotten to a point with my trading after 5 years, after thousands of hours of putting time into the market, where I've made thousands of mistakes. And I've been able to use those thousands of mistakes to be able to build a foundation upon to now funnel out what works, what doesn't work, when am I the most emotional, when do I make the most irrational decisions, in what situations do I have big losing days, in what situations do I have the biggest winning days, and I position myself accordingly to that data, right? And that's all it is. But if you're not actually focused on those things, you won't be able to get to a point of efficiency. And you have to be focused on getting to a point of efficiency. So trust me, the viewer, the trader, the person that is watching this video right now, you will make it. You will be successful only if you stop focusing on being successful. I know it sounds counterintuitive, but you have to trust me on this. Go into every single day focusing on building good habits, only trading your setup, recognizing when to step away. If you feel emotional, recognize that and say, hey, I'm not in the right mental state to be trading right now. Walk away, call it a day. You're more likely to make a bad decision in that state than any other. Journal every single trade that you take. Journal trades that you don't take, but you wanted to take, right? Say you didn't have enough confidence to take a trade. Okay, look at it, say, hey, I might have taken this trade. Go journal it, and maybe that becomes a trade that you could then have confidence with to take later on. But without actually taking the time to reflect on these ideas, reflect on these things that you're thinking throughout the day, you're never gonna be able to get to a point where you can actually improve. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. Remember, losing is a part of the game. Use it to your advantage. Focus on building good habits. Completely disconnect yourself from the money, and it will flow like water to you. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. I will see you in the next one.